Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today we're going to set this Sukkah Daf Daled. We're going to begin on the bottom of Gimel Amud Beis by the two dots. Let's say you have a Sukkah which is above 20 amos, which in itself is puzzle, as we saw in our Mishnah. However, you decide to raise the floor by adding pillows and blankets there. So therefore, by you standing on these pillows and blankets, it's now less than 20 amos. Lo havi miyot. It's not going to help anything. It's not considered a way of minimizing that space as we continue to Daled Amud Aleph. Even though you're mavatl all that stuff, I'm not going to use these pillows and blankets, I'll never use them again, but that's not something which is normal for the average person, and therefore we say it's considered to be like it's still significant, and therefore we're concerned that the pillows and blankets would be taken, because that's what normally would be done, and therefore it's not going to minimize, therefore the sukkah is still possible. What if instead you put tevin, you put straw, in ubitlo, and you actually are mavatl it? So our harimiyat, that certainly will be enough to minimize the measurement, so it'll be a kosher sukkah, but kosher can offer bitlo. Also, and certainly if it's dirt which has less utility than tevin, certainly if you're mavatl it, it's okay. So according to all sheets, as if you're mavatl the tevin or the offer, everyone holds it's a bitl. Tevin din asalif noisa offer stam achok Rabbi Yosef. If let's say you have straw in which you do not have any desire in the future to remove it, or you have offer in which you didn't make any decoration, you just put it down, so it's a machlokes Rabbi Yosef whether or not that is a miyut to actually therefore minimize the sukkah and make it kosher. Did not. So if you have a house that's filled with straw or stones, if you do a bittul, then in fact it's a good bittul. However, little bittul low, you actually have to be mevatel. The tiny law of Rabbi Yossi, that's you don't have to be mevatel. According to him, tevin veinos lith no sorry you can stam temel batel. Even if you have tevin, which you're not planning on removing, or you have put the offer there stam, that also is a bittul. However, offer v'oslith no sorry you can stam tevin little bittul. Certainly, if you have tevin and offer in which you say, you know what, I am going to remove it in the future, so it's obviously you're not mavatl it, and therefore because of that, it's not a miyut and the sukkah is still possible. So we have question 9. Question 9, haniach offer o tevin b'stam hi moyel amayt v'goyva hasukkah. So the question is, if you do stam, so when it comes to offer stam, it's a machlokes. Tevin vein osalif noisa is a machlokes. Also offer vein osalif noso. Rashi says in also this case of offer, which you're not intending to remove it, is also machlokes. And the reason why we said the case of tevin was to show the koyach of Rav Yossi that even there he says it's kosher. But when it comes to offer vein osalif noso, that's also a machlokes. So they argue in those three circumstances. So again, when it comes to the question of stam, so if it's offer stam, so offer stam is a machlokes. However, tevin stam, Rav Yossi admits that this is not a miyut, and therefore that would not work. Okay. Weiter. Again, let's say the sukkah is more than 20 amos high. As you can see in this picture here, in the Perishtai, you have these hutzin, you have the stuff which goes very thick, so therefore the branches actually go down below the 20 amos. So, interestingly enough, the Gemara says as follows: if there's more shade than sun, in other words, if you would remove that which is above 20 amos, and just look at that which is 20 amos and down, if it would produce more shade than sun, that's good. However, if not, it's possible. How about the other way around? Let's say you have a sukkah which is just 10 tfachim, a very small sukkah, like this one right here, and you have these branches going underneath the yud, the 10. So you would think, well, you have more sun than shade, it's kilo like those branches aren't there, and therefore it's still kosher sukkah because it's still 10 tfachim. Amli Rabbi, no. Hadir Srucha, then Adam Dor B'dir Srucha. That's a dir Srucha, that's cramped quarters. a person can't live in such cramped quarters. So even if it's salas mermachamasa, so the din is it is not good. Question 10. So he said if the branches below the 20 amos is salas mermachamasa, it's kosher. However, that is not a kosher sukkah. Weiter. The sukkah is about 20 amos above, but it's the bar, and you built a platform opposite the middle wall. So as our Mishnah saw and said that all you need to have are 3 walls, and it's a sukkah kshera. So in this case, al pnei kula, it's against all 3 sides, as you can see on this picture on the right. The Yishma Heksher Sukkah Kshera. As long as it's a Heksher Sukkah, has the right dimensions, then it's kosher. So therefore, you can actually stand on this itztama, and if from the itztama to the tzach is less than 20 amos, it's fine. However, when it's sad, as you see in this picture, it's on the side, so it's only covering 2 walls, not the third. So it depends. If from where the itztama ends to where this wall, which has nothing, is more than 4 amos, that's possible. So my kamashmon, what is this coming to teach us? That we have this concept of doif nekuma, which is of course the first time we mention it here, and we have a bent wall. There's a concept when it comes to sukkah that even if, let's say, the schach doesn't go all the way to the side, you have some schach puzzle, so we say that the wall bends. However, it only bends horizontally up until, but not including 4 amos. That's doif nekuma. Tanina, we learned this already in a Mishnah later on, which I guess it means you're supposed to know that Mishnah later on. If let's say you have a house in which the roof is gone, the sichach al gaba, so the Mishnah already tells us this din of doif nekuma. So maybe over there is because the walls were actually fit fit because they were less than 20 amos. This by itself, without the itztaba, is not a kosher sukkah. So maybe you would think that the din is different. We don't say doif nekuma over there. It's kamashmon, we still do. Again, let's say it's 20 amos high, or above 20 amos, I should say. You put a platform smack in the middle, not up against any of the walls. So imiyesh misfas, it's u'adaifin arba amos l'chol ruach palchais is psula. Palchs arba amos kshera. So we're saying that you could do doif nekuma not just on one side, but it can work on numerous sides. So my question when I mean doif nekuma, hainu hach. It's the same thing. There's a din of doif nekuma. I can't give you the answer. Ma'atema doif nekuma ruach hachas amri. Kol ruach loach loi. Kamashmon. You would think maybe doif nekuma only applies. It's such a leniency. Maybe it only applies once, but maybe it's not going to apply on this side, that side, all 4 sides, or maybe all 3 sides. Kamashmon, we still say doif nekuma. Okay. Question 11a. Hoysa gavoa mechafamo bon itzaba mem sisa. Oshoysa pchusim miyutfach mechafim ke'emsel hashlima liyud. You'll see that in a second. Kamihi hamerachak ben ho'itzaba or chakak l'nafanos l'chol yoyser. So we said when it comes to, as we mentioned, you put the itzaba, it's got to be within dalad amos. However, we're more strict on the other side. Let's continue to go on. Let's say it's less than 10 tefachim, which in itself is a problem. However, the chakakba, you dug into the ground, kedei lashlima, in order to make it 10 tefachim. So, if let's say you have the wall, and what you end up having is, let's see if I have a picture over here. If let's say you have from this wall, right, to where you dug, it's not 4 amos, but rather gimel tefachim. So im yesh misfas kakakol koisel gimel tefachim sula. If it's got to be within 3 tefachim. As we continue to dalam mevays, hachayis mishosh tefachim kshera. So remember, wonders why, and that's the answer to the other question on 11. So ma'ishna hasam di'amri pachs mi'arba amos. Why, when it came to the itztama, you can use doif nekuma 4 amos, or less than 4 amos. Ma'ishna hacha, when you dug into the ground from the hole to the wall, because you're connecting, let's say, a 5 tefachim wall, and then 5 tefachim deep, and you're going to sit inside that pit. So why why does that have to be within 3 tefachim? So Hasid Diesel Daifin, over there by the first case, it's one wall. So Pachas Mi'arba Al Masagi. But over here, L'Shabla Daifin Pachas Mishloish Tefachim in L'Loi. Right now it's not a wall. To have a din of a wall, it's got to be 10 tefachim. So since you have a din of a wall, you have to have lavud, less than 3 tefachim, which is considered like it's all connected, and that's why we're more strict. Again, Sukkah is more than 20 hours. Omud, you built a pillar, Shu Gavoa Sar Tefachim, which is higher than 10 Tefachim. So in this case, let me see if I have any pictures over here. The pictures coming up. So the Yeshba Hechsher Sukkah, Sabr by Lameimer, Good Osik Mechitzasa. You would think that there's a concept called Good Osik Mechitzasa, that the walls should go up. Right? Even though they're not really walls, but we can say these imaginary walls can go up, and therefore you would say good asik mechitzasa, and then you would say dof and akuma to reach those imaginary walls. So no, that would not work. You have to have recognizable walls in order to then be able to link to dof and akuma. You can't just have good asik mechitzasa, and then then all of a sudden it works. Tanaba. Nuts arbor koindisin. Let's say you have a pole, if arbor koindisin, which is this picture over here. The Succah halgam you put skach on it. Rabbi Yaakov Machshel come and poison. So over here we have a machlokas, and we'll see why this works. You can see this is also brought down in the Succah Yomi. These are was a din diyumud, as we'll see in a second, which is 1 by 1 tefach. So notes arbor kondis and Succah Rabbi Yaakov Machshel v'cham and poison. So we have this machlokas. So Rav Huna, machlokas al sfas agag. The whole machlokas is if you built this on the edge of the roof. The Rabbi Yaakov savar amin gudas mechitzasa. According to him, he'll say that the walls continue to go up, which is this top picture. But let's say you built this right in the middle, which is this picture here, then Divrei Psula. We're not going to say that good asem mechitzasa. It's only when the poles are right up against the corners of the roof. So that's the sheet of Rav Huna. Rav Nachman Amar no, be'emsa hagag machlokas. In the middle is a machlokas. So what does that statement mean? We also mentioned emsa hagag. So iboiluhu praktik gemara be'emsa hagag machlokas hamas hasa hagag me'okok sher. Does he hold by the edge it's kosher that everyone holds? You say good asem mechitzasa, or maybe not. Maybe it'll deal with bin zul and zul machlokas teku. It's not so clear what Rav Nachman holds when it comes to al sfas hagag, whether he holds everyone holds kosher, holds also machlokas. But he certainly says Rav Nachman, that in the middle is a machlokas. Even though according to the sheet of Rav Huna, no, we're not going to say good asem mechitzasa, it's possible. So meisvei. But if the Gemara, nuts dal kondis in ba'aretz. You put it smack on the ground, so there's no walls going up. There's no sfas hagag. The Succah Gabon, Rabbi Yaakov Machshel Cham Poison, Baha Eretz, the Ke'emsa Gagdami, but Kamash Rabbi Yaakov, right? Rabbi Yaakov says it's kosher. Mashma, it's very clear that when it comes to Emsa Sagag, there's a machlokas there. So you have to do Rav Huna. Well, it's a question of Rav Huna that says they only argue when it comes to the Emsa Sagag, the Sfas Sagag. The Emsa Sagag, everyone holds it's possible. What do you mean? When you put down condition on the ground, that's comparable to Emsa, to the middle, and nonetheless it's a machlokas. So tiyot, that's in fact a machlokas. Furthermore, ba'od the Emsa who deplete, they only argue l'chayru when it comes to the middle. Of al svasa going to be called ksher, l'chayru everyone agrees. So let's have to Rav Huna b'tarti. It's not like we want to kick him down when he's down, but the reason why we usually do this, we have a tiyufta b'tarti, is if somehow we're able to get out of that first tiyufta, we have a second one, so it's a total refutation. So l'chayra, maybe it's a tiyufta on that side too. That must be, they agree when it comes to al sfas hagag. So Amar Lach will say, Amar Rav Huna, if Rav Huna was here, this is what he would say. Pligi ve'emsa hagag hudin al sfas hagag. No, they really do argue when it comes to Svas Agag. So why does it mention Emsas Agag? Behind the commitment of Emsas Agag, the idea of Koyf the Rabbi Yaakov. He's trying to show the strength of Rabbi Yaakov. They feel the Emsas Agag Nami Machsher, that even the Emsas Agag, even that he's kosher. So why does he do it the other way around? Because we know that the concept of Koyf the Hatera Adifa, that we always want to be show the heter. Taraban. Note our Kondisim Aretz, the Succah Rabban, as we said, Rabbi Yaakov Oimer, Royin, as I showed you the picture before, Kol She'ilu Yechakik V'Yechalku. You can carve it out. V'yesh Mem Tefach Hakan or Tefach Hakan Nidonim Mishim Diyumid. So we have this concept of Diyumid, that it's Ke'ilu, that's one by one, which is actually an interesting question. I remember when I was learning with Second Yoma, you can see on the Taisus, V'hada Be'inan Amagabi Pasti Be'iros Gaba Machitza Shabbos Hichmer. So we actually ask the question: do we say two nirins, which is Yachoikaku V'Yachalku? Maybe only say one nirin, not two. So over here we're lenient, and over there we weren't so sure. It's because over there we're machmir because it's Shabbos. However, over here we're more makel, so therefore we're lenient. V'im lavin nidon mishum diyumid. Shav Yaakov oimer diyamudi sukku tefach. All it has to be is a tefach by tefach, and that's enough, which is comparable to the pasuk be'iros, which again we learned in the second paragraph. Erevin. So Chamim introduced, as our Mishnah says, you have to have three walls, which means two of them have to be kehilchasan, and the third one has to be at least the minimum of a tefach. Question 12. Notes are conditions of Rabban Rabbi Yaakov Machsher Mashirun Shel Hakundrasin. How big should it be? So it says, as long as you would imagine to cut it out, as you can see in this picture, which is what we're envisioning, and it would be a tefach by a tefach, that would be sufficient. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see a couple more questions. TA 14. You got every question right, straight through. 12 to 30. So let's see what this question is. If it's less than 10 tefachim, and you dug it in, so how much does that have to be? So we said it's got to be less than 3 tefachim, okay, which is the same question as 11b. This is TA 14. And then the question is, so the second question is, so why don't we say this? This is actually a great question. We didn't have it, but we saw it over here. Is because it's not a wall. It's not a wall, right? The other one already has a shame of a wall, and because this one does have a shame of a wall, therefore it must be within 3 tefachim, or else it's possible. Fine. TB 15. Yud is more than 10. What's in Yarden? So ma savar abaya bedina uma oimer lo rava. So this is really the same as question 10. This is TB 15. So he says just as long as you have more shade than sun going underneath the 20 amos, that would be fine. Okay. However, when it comes to if it's less than 10 tefachim, rather, he thought to say if it has more sun than shade, then it's kosher. It's like it's not there. No, it's a der srufa. Very good question. So he thought that maybe we would be able to say Gudasik Mechitzasa, and we say no, we're not going to say that because Be'inan Mechitzos and Ikaros Valeka. You need to actually have recognizable walls, and that's not something which exists. Fine. Let's see a couple of Shlomer's questions. Let's do this quickly. Rav Habolamite Gavoya Sukkah Shil Mal Machaf Kevin Afar Ezo Fanim Machos Rabbi Yosef Rabbanon. So I actually got one of these questions wrong, interestingly enough. So the machlokus is by upper bein asal ifnoiso, tevin bein asal ifnoiso, and upper stop. Extra credit. Okay, don't need to know those. We learned a sukkah over 20 amos is kosher if there is enough schach under 20 amos, more shade than sun. So too, if exactly 10 tefachim, you can see if it's less sun than shade. And where we said no, it's a cramped place, and even if it is more sun than shade, the sukkah will be in place where your body will be. That's schach. Our walls aren't kosher. By the case of bayit shinifachat, the walls are kosher, so there should be no problem of doif and akuma. But by our case, our walls aren't kosher for sukkah because they are over 20 amos. So you might think the doifin doesn't work in our case. Kamashmon, it helps. So he says, if it's less than 10, it's no name of a wall. In our other cases, the wall had the shame of a wall. But less than 10 tefachim isn't even considered to be a wall. Therefore, Dofen and Kuma attaches both small walls. I'm not sure if that, I should have really said the lovud, giving it that shear. Nostal kondis Succah al gabon. Rabbi Yaakov holds kosher by the ground. What's the difference? In the case of Emtza, there is no machlokas because there is no wall next to the sukkah. So too, by having these poles stuck to the ground, Rav Huna says the machlokas is when both cases are similar. Ketzad Ratzon Gemara B'Lomed Shir Yitfachim Lo Sukkah from the pasuk Datel Hashem Yal Kaparas Adkan.